Good evening. On behalf of the League of Women Voters and the Twin West Chamber of Commerce, I would like to welcome you to the Candidates Forum this evening. The League of Women Voters is an organization that is nonpartisan and volunteer-based. It is organized at the local, state, and national level to encourage citizens to participate in government. While the LWV members do study and take stands on issues, we do not endorse or support political parties or candidates. The LWV does encourage its members as individuals, as we encourage each of you to get involved in your community and the political party of your choice. However, the views expressed in this forum are those of the individual candidates and not those of the League of Women Voters. By sponsoring tonight's forum, the League provides an opportunity for citizen participation and exposure to candidates, but does not provide an endorsement of any candidate or candidates. All viable candidates have been invited to participate this evening. Tonight's forum will be for District 279 School Board Special Election, 1 2-year term seat. In tonight's forum, the candidates will start with 6 of the 7 questions they received in advance, in which they have 1 minute to respond. Then our candidates will have up to 45 seconds to respond to each of the questions that we are receiving remotely and by email. Finally, they will be given 1 minute for the final question that is their final statements. Candidates, the League would like to request that you refrain from making any personal attacks on your fellow candidates. Due to the pandemic, to help keep everyone safe, we have no in-person audience at this forum or any others we are conducting. We have been posting email addresses where questions may be sent. During the live broadcast, your questions may be sent to candidateforums@twinwest.com. We also have a screener here tonight, making sure the questions are relevant to all candidates in this forum and not in any way a personal attack towards any one person. I'd like to take this moment to point out our timekeepers for this evening. They will show you when you have 15 seconds to finish your statement and then show you when your time has expired. Please finish your sentence at that time, as I will be directing the next speaker's turn. The order has been randomly selected. For the first question, we will just start in the order from left to right, and we have Thomas Brooks, Bridget Erickson, Vicki Richardson, and Kia Zhang. So the first question will go to Thomas. Please tell us about your background and previous school district involvement that support your candidacy for this position.
Good evening. I am Thomas Brooks, and I am honored to be here tonight. I am a highly active community member with a parent with leadership and advocacy experience from the national level to my city of Brooklyn Park, as well as previous experience with DPAC here in District 279 and Minneapolis Public Schools. By day, I'm a financial global project manager that is responsible for finding and implementing solutions that improve systems and processes. My kids love this district, our educators, and their friends. There's so much we do well, but so much room to improve. I want to be frank. I am a Black, gay dad living in Brooklyn Park, and like many of our students and families in the district, my perspective often does not have a seat at the table. I will passionately advocate for equity in all of our schools, safety, increased support for the whole well-being of scholars and families, in a system that measures success and prepares our scholars for their individual journeys post-high school.
Thank you. Bridget Erickson.
Good evening. I'm Bridget Erickson. I'm an educator with over 18 years of experience. I've been devoted to delivering and creating pedagogical practices that narrow and close the opportunity gap and raise academic achievement for all students. I have documented success in narrowing the gap as a classroom teacher and a literacy specialist. I've worked as an educational consultant, helping districts and schools analyze their pedagogical practices to better meet the instructional needs of culturally and/or linguistically diverse students. I work as an adjunct instructor in a graduate school of education and have presented nationally and locally, teaching teachers how to better meet the instructional needs of students of color, students in poverty, and second language learners. As a resident and mom of children in the district, I've been committed to building cross-district and cross-cultural connections with my work in co-founding Families Connecting Through Kindness, as a board member on the Just for Kids Foundation, advocating for and building support for the 279 Foundation, supporting diverse candidates for school board, and co-creating opportunities for PTO and PAC collaboration. Thank you for having me tonight.
Thank you. Vicki Richardson.
To come on. Good evening. Thank you, first of all, to the League of Women Voters for supporting this event tonight. It's really important that the forum brings out truth and allows all the voters to see who we are and what we stand for. So thank you so much. So I come to you as a chaplain for Anoka County Sheriff and Police Department. I've been a chaplain for them for going on 20 years. Prior to that, I worked as a paraprofessional in the Osseo School District 279. I worked in the EBD, or special ed department, especially with the students that had emotionally disability factors. And I loved my job. I just loved my job. I am a mom I have 9 children, some biological, some not. I have 7 foreign exchange students and 6 foster children, so I have a household. And I thank you for listening to me tonight.
Thank you. And Kia Zhang.
Hi, thank you. My name is Kia, and thank you for allowing me this opportunity to speak about my ideas and some of the plans that I would like to share with the Women's League to support my goals and how to help the district improve some of the opportunities that we could potentially have for in support of the students that are with special needs and students that with bilingual parents with limited English proficient English, as well as with parents that are in low-income family. I am a parent of 2 students that are currently attending Osseo Area School District. I have a senior who has a different levels of independence and a kindergartner who requires high support from the parents to help him through this pandemic learning. I am running for school board because as a concerned parent of 2 children and member of the community, I want to be a voice for our parents and students. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next question, we'll start again with Kia Zhang this time. Do you feel the district is doing a good job of educating its students and preparing them for post-secondary education or for entry into the workforce? Why or why not?
I think that this district is doing a good job. I do have a senior right now that he's actually currently preparing for that. When I was in my senior year, when I was in high school, I feel that I had a little bit more support and resources in preparing for post-secondary, and I feel that he lacked on quite a few of those that I think that as a board member, I would like to share some of those ideas with the board and the school district, and hopefully we can implement some of those plans. For example, seniors, I hope that they can get some assessment tests so they can learn what some of the skills are so that way they can learn on what they should go to college for. For example, once they learn the skills, a business major will want to major in business, or somebody who wants to study law would find that they are more skilled in that area. So, and as well as college prep as well too, and I feel that he lacks some of those opportunities and resources.
Thank you. Next, Thomas Brooks.
The answer to this question is twofold. The district is doing a great job of preparing some of our kids for post-secondary education. We have a few of the greatest schools in the state, but as we look towards my end of the district, the picture changes drastically. Too many of our schools are not experiencing the same high-quality, rigorous education as other schools. Despite the complexities, our educators, administrators, and parents are working hard to turn this around and meet the challenges of our vast disparities in the district. We have an opportunity gap that is not acceptable. We need equity, and we need to ensure our students that are not being prepared for the future are receiving the additional support and resources needed to be successful in and out of the classroom. When I say I love this district, it means I am that much more committed to the hard work in front of us to do better by our kids and families. When all of our students succeed, our entire community succeeds.
Thank you. Bridget Erickson.
I believe our secondary schools are working hard to prepare students for post-secondary. Staff and parents alike I have spoken with are excited about the work of programs like AVID and BAR. Two concerns I have are what I understand is a site's responsibility to initiate and fund these successful programs, and that creates a gap in access for students depending on their neighborhood assigned school. Additionally, these programs, while successful, tend to focus on four-year post-secondary academic programs. In speaking with families, there's a strong interest in offering opportunities for preparation in the trades. I'd like the district to engage families more deeply, consistently, when developing and implementing systemic and sustainable post-secondary preparation programs.
Thank you. And Vicki Richardson.
I believe our district is doing a really fine job working with our students. I do feel, however, so many people are zooming in on the higher education, the middle school through senior high, and I think formation starts in kindergarten or preschool, and I think a lot of changes could be happening in that area. We have a lot of racism, we have a lot of disparity. Equity is like major important, and if these were addressed when children were young, you know, children really have no racism. They don't judge each other. They just enjoy being around each other. And if we could take those formative years and start to help them see the world through different lenses and become friends, I think we can all learn more. We can be educated when we are comfortable with each other. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next question. Do you believe District 279 is performing well in closing the achievement gap? And if not, what would you propose to enhance that effort? And we'll start with you again, Vicki.
The achievement gap has been an issue for years, and I think it's a journey that we're going to be on for a long time. So many people want to try so many different things, and they're great ideas. But actually speaking to the students themselves and winding up with an authentic and a realistic desire for what their needs are as far as professionalism, what they're going to go into, what their natural gifts and talents are, if we could come to the table, round tables together, and find out just where the gifts and talents are found in each student, and then help them to really empower themselves by taking the classes that will fit and feed them for their future. I believe this is really important. Thank you.
Thank you. Kia Zhang.
Thank you. I do echo what Vicki just mentioned there, that I think that there is still a huge achievement gap for all students, particularly the low-income students, as well as bilingual or parents with limited English proficiency, and especially students as well too. There's always opportunities for everything. I feel there's still a lot of work to do to ensure family with special needs students in low-income families, students living in a limited English proficient household, students with single parents, and students that are living in a lack of support system all fall under this achievement gap here. And I hope that with my plan, I hope that we can allocate some of those funding to the staff to establish programs to support the students here and assign a mentor to work with the students and his or her parents with close follow-up. And the teacher sends weekly email check-in regarding the students' progress. Hopefully, and provide technology with internet access if the family is unable to afford the internet at home.
Thank you. Thomas Brooks.
I would also agree. I do not believe the district is performing well in closing the achievement gap. This would not be a question in today's forum if this were the case. In terms of the achievement of our Black students, for example, 64.2% partially meet or do not meet reading standards, versus 72.2% of white students that do exceed or meet reading standards. I do believe the district, our administrators and educators are working hard to close the opportunity gap, but they need resources and greater support from the board. Our families need resources and support from the community. To enhance our efforts in closing the opportunity gap, I would advocate for relational learning or cultural learning, using technology in and out of our classrooms to supplement class sizes, advocate for smaller class sizes, and provide our scholars and their families with the necessary wraparound services, support, and resources in and out of the classroom. Our students need to know every day they are capable of achieving the high standard of education we owe them as a district and community. Thank you.
Bridget Erickson.
When I enter our school buildings, I see strong teaching, good curriculum, strong relationship building, and staff working their tails off to close the achievement gap. More accurately termed, the opportunity gap. However, we have a significant opportunity gap that is predicted by race, economics, and language in 279. Our educational system in 279, like all societies with an academic class, was built by, is run by, and is delivered by middle class, college educated, and oftentimes, in our case, white people. Those students most successful in 279 are those whose culture best matches the academic, middle class, white culture of our schools. To see the opportunity gap close, we must disrupt that mismatch. We must systemically and sustainably analyze our pedagogical practices, our language, our norms, our expectations to recognize them, make them explicit, and simultaneously embed the home cultures of our students into the district's norm practices so students can access the curriculum and the content.
Thank you. And I apologize, Thomas Brooks. Did you have anything more you wanted to say? From this angle, it looked like they had the stop sign up, and it turned out they did not. So.
No, I got it all out.
Okay.
But thank you.
Sorry about that. Thanks. And I'm just going to ask the timekeepers to show me the sign too. Thanks. Our next question. The COVID-19 pandemic has significantly altered the way the district delivers its educational services. What do you think the district has performed well during the pandemic? What can the district do better? And how would you help get the district prepared for other potential future emergencies? And we'll start with Bridget Erickson.
The district did an excellent job of seeking, hearing, and acting upon stakeholder feedback after the spring. They have proven to be nimble, to adjust to concerns, and respond to community feedback on safety and instruction as we have continued. I still believe, though, we have sustained serious issues regarding how we are delivering special education services, meeting English learner needs, class size concerns, and delivering rigorous instruction in a model that is sustainable for teachers. While we are in a pandemic and it's understandable, it feels as if we are still working from a reactionary mindset versus a proactive mindset. Some ideas to address this may include the district and the board analyzing and communicating the tight and loose components to this year's learning, transparent communication as to how we are using our COVID funding, and a transparent analysis as to whether our current $76 million surplus may be used to ensure stability in classroom staffing.
Thank you. Vicki Richardson.
The pandemic has made everything very surreal, and education has really taken a huge bite. Without one-on-one communication with students and seeing someone through a Zoom class, it's very hard for a teacher to be able to tell perhaps that student was abused at home the night before, or maybe they haven't eaten dinner. These are real life situations, and our students, a lot of them, come from very low social economic families. We're really fortunate that Park Center High School feeds our students lunches, and like I think the rest of the schools do too. So I think they're really trying to meet the students' needs, but we have to go back to checking in, you can't learn if you're hungry. You can't learn if your shoes have holes in them. We really need to support our students.
Thank you. Kia Zhang.
I think the school is doing an excellent job with some of the outreach that they reach out to parents. Such examples are the survey that they reach out to the parents to decide whether they want to go to hybrid or distance learning. The email communication from Superintendent Corey McIntyre has been really informational, as well as planning for back to school. I want to be honest that it has not been easy for all involved. I think that the district has done its best with planning to ensure all students are covered. Some of the opportunities that I found are that I think that communication could improve. For example, some of the communications are parents that does not speak English very well. I see that some of those communications did not come in as translated, but in English. Recently, I did see that they've been translated. Establish separate plans for students with different levels of independence. and I would say better safety procedures and process for in-school learning under COVID-19 so we can get those kids back to school.
Thank you. Thomas Brooks.
COVID-19 has altered all of our lives. On one hand, this pandemic has brought to light so many of the issues and challenges in our district we have otherwise looked over in the past. On the other hand, this pandemic has forced our district to pivot and be more flexible in its approach to learning, actually jumping years forward as it relates to technology in and out of the classroom. The district has done pretty well with communication. There were days where I received several texts and voicemails a day between the two schools and the superintendent. The district can improve in giving the superintendent more authority to do his job. The superintendent's job should be immune from the politics of the board. The board approves the budget and sets expectations for the superintendent and staff. I would like to see both the board and district admin meet after the pandemic to review lessons learned, to document processes and a crisis plan specific to pandemics, and to reprioritize on moving forward in a new and improved District 279. Thank you.
Thank you. Next question, and we'll start with you again, Thomas Brooks. Do you feel there are systemic racial disparities and/or implicit biases in the way the district delivers education to its students today? Why or why not? And please give examples.
We live in one of the largest, most diverse, and actually segregated districts in the state. There are certainly systemic racial disparities, and we all have implicit bias. There are also economic disparities outside of our schools. This is a district that continues to grow and become increasingly diverse. We have a school board and staff that have consistently not represented the growing racial diversity in our district. Our board approved an anti-racism resolution this year, signifying its agreement on this matter and commitment to eliminate racial bias in existing and new policy as necessary. Our district has committed to working to increase our educators of color to better represent what our student body looks like, but there's still work to be done in recruiting and retaining educators of color and ensuring we have people of color and people from underrepresented cities and communities on the board in years to come. We cannot achieve equity in our district without representation. Thank you.
Thank you. Vicki Richardson.
Racism, equity, disparities have been rampant in District 279. There's been, we have many, many students that come from very low-income families, and when they get into higher education grades, what you wear, how you look, how your hair is done makes a big difference in what appears to be successful as a student. I again go back to starting in kindergarten and teaching the students to get to know each other, to hear each other's narratives, to get to like each other, to love the different cultures, to love the different languages, the different faiths. And I think if we can do that, then it'll help with disparity, it'll help with racism, and it might just eliminate equity. That's my hope.
Thank you. Bridget Erickson.
As I said earlier, our educational system in 279, like all societies with an academic class, was built by, is run by, and is delivered by middle-class, college-educated, in our case, white people. Those students most successful in 279 are those whose culture best matches the academic, middle-class, and white culture of our schools. I've spoken to many families throughout the summer and fall and have heard strong feedback supporting the community and relationships their children and they feel in their classrooms and schools. But I also have heard several examples of their children experiencing overt and covert racism in their schools, learning from biased curriculum, families and staff of color not feeling heard, and problems being perpetuated. We need to disrupt these experiences by developing systemic practices that elevate the perspectives and lived experiences of our students, our parents, our staff of color, and the analysis of district curriculum, district norms, and district practices. We need to develop sustainable protocols to ensure students, families, and staff are heard, and a multi-ethnic lens is proactively applied at every level of decision-making, access point of power.
Thank you. Kia Zhang.
I think that systemic racial disparities or implicit bias occur in almost, I would say that in every race and also in every ethnic groups. I think that the best way to help us educate those students and also as well as working with the teachers is that let's not assume and that all students are receiving the same support system at home or speaking the same language. And we should be mindful of that, be aware of the situation as well as the complexity or the diverse community that we have within District 279. We are a very diverse community in District 279. I feel that we should add more educators of colors to represent our community and our students.
Thank you. Next question, and we'll start with you again, Kia Zhang. Currently, school board members are elected at large, where the candidates who receive the most votes are elected to the school board. Do you support a change to create voting wards within the district, so geographical boundaries where one person from each ward is elected to the school board? Why or why not?
I think it's a great idea because I think voting wards within the district based on geographical boundary is it's a way to show representation from the different districts. Each district will be more accurately represented according to the needs of the individual district and the community that they represent. The community that they represent. My apologies.
Thank you. And Thomas Brooks?
I also support a change to elect some school board members by geographic boundaries. It is proven in other jurisdictions that wards provide local accountability and would more closely ensure local representation. Regardless of a school board member's district, they would still have an obligation to make decisions in the best interest of all families and scholars across the district, with the added perspective of what is happening on the ground in their respective district. I believe this type of representation would provide parents and community leaders in underrepresented areas the opportunity to run for the school board and serve our district without the daunting task of attempting to reach voters in our geographically huge district. Thank you.
Thank you. Bridget Erickson?
Consistent message I have heard in speaking with families across the district is a need for stronger board representation from our Brooklyn Park and Brooklyn Center families and stakeholders. Folks in the community have worked tirelessly for a ward system or a combination of a ward system and at-large system as a way to ensure representation. As we work to disrupt systemic racism in schools, our first step is to listen and respond. A ward system seems to be the most logical answer to support our families, listen to our families, and ensure every child in our district is represented.
Thank you. Vicki Richardson?
I agree with everybody this evening. I think having a school board member from your own ward is important not just to the adults that voted them in, but I think it's really important for the teenagers and the young children to see the board member in the public so that they can go up to them and talk to them, and the board member can start to build a relationship. I think it's really important to have that relationship so that when big things come up like a pandemic and you see your board member in the grocery store, you can just say, like a human being to human being, what do you think is going to happen? Something happens when you start to interact with each other, and it builds community. So I hope we can change and do school board elections from the wards.
Thank you. And now we will be transitioning to the audience question, so you will have 45 seconds to respond. First question will be going to Vicki Richardson. What is the school board's role in assuring that students with disabilities receive a free and appropriate special education program?
The school board's responsibility would be to make sure the finances are available. They do have a lot to say, and they should be listening to what the teachers have to say and what the needs are, and getting to know what our special ed children are going through and their needs that they have themselves. They're the only ones that can say yes or no. And finances, you can't do much without finances. Special ed departments are expensive, and we need them to be aware of that and make things happen for our special ed children.
Thank you. Bridget Erickson.
I think it's really important, especially during COVID, that we're paying special attention to our IEP goals and our obligations, our legal obligations, and meeting those IEP goals. We also have to be really careful about the biases that we have in testing and evaluation and recommendations and I think that would be the key thing. And I think also just, again, back to the COVID, I think that a huge issue right now is making sure that we're fulfilling those legal obligations we have on those IEPs and 504s.
Thank you. Kia Zhang?
Would you mind repeat the question again, please?
Sure. What is the school board's role in assuring that students with disabilities receive a free and appropriate special education program?
I think that the school board's role is to work with the budget that we have, as well as the finance programs, try to establish programs and resources to support the educators as well as parents, and how to best help the students that are in special needs.
Thank you. And Thomas Brooks?
I believe that the school board's role in this process is funding. I believe the budget is, and I'll probably say it again, a reflection of our priorities as a district, and our priorities should be to serve all of our students. I would also say that the school board's role could be to better partner with the community and to reduce some of the red tape involved with documentation, IEPs, et cetera. Thank you.
Thank you. And our next question, we'll start with you, Thomas Brooks. How do you feel teachers can be better supported during distance learning and distance and hybrid learning?
So I think the first step in this process would be to listen. As I've talked to teachers throughout this district, I have heard consistently that teachers do not feel heard. So the first step would be to listen and to make sure that their voices are collectively heard. I am honored to have the endorsement of Education Minnesota Osseo and see that as a commitment to make sure that I am engaging with teachers, educators in general, and ensuring their voices are lifted.
Thank you. Kia Zhang?
I think that based on, as I mentioned earlier, I have two children that have different independence level, and the teachers that are teaching my senior, they actually are in a little bit better shape than my student who is actually in kindergarten. So I think that the biggest support that we need to is understand the different independence level. For example, like kindergarten through like preschool all the way to 5th grade, or students with special needs. I think those need a lot of extra attentions from the school, as well as the additional resources and programs to help support the teachers doing their job to support the students and teach the students.
Thank you. Vicki Richardson?
I too agree with the teacher's need of a listening ear. Nobody knows how that room functions better than the teacher. And even when people come in to observe other teachers or maybe an assistant principal, they are not the one responsible for the teaching of those students. And I think the teachers really need to have set-in breaks or something where they can just leave for a minute or two and just take a deep breath, or maybe incorporate some meditation with the whole classroom so everybody can take a deep breath. Zoom learning is very difficult. I just got my master's doing Zoom learning, and it's very difficult. So listening is very important.
Thank you. And Bridget Erickson?
I think that, I think the hybrid model is a really tough model for teachers to sustain throughout the school year. Yeah. They're doing 2 preps every day, so that's 10 preps that they're doing, or they're planning for 10 different days of learning. It's double the amount of work, and I fear that we're burning our teachers out. Yeah. So I think listening to the union, listening to teachers, how can we support you? I think talking about the tight and loose, what's tight right now in the pandemic, what's loose. I also think helping them and providing systemic supports for feedback, a lot of sharing, things like that. What can we do for them to limit their workload during this pandemic? And really analyze, is hybrid a sustainable model for teachers in schools right now?
Thank you. Next question, we're going to switch gears just a little bit, and we'll start with Thomas Brooks. What book are you currently reading or have recently finished?
So the last book that I completed was Hillbilly Elegy by J.D. Vance, which I thought was fascinating in a variety of ways, a lot of similarities to my childhood, obviously not as extreme. But also it just shows that there is a story behind every single one of us, and that applies directly to our students.
Thank you. Bridget Erickson.
I just purchased from Amazon Cast, and I haven't started it yet, but I'm excited to. So it's just got there in the mail.
Thank you. Vicki Richardson.
I just have been reading James Cone, a Black brilliant author and teacher, reading the birth of the jazz in the 30s and 40s, and how resilient that helped the people with all the trauma they had to go through was the birth of the jazz, and how their music really fed them and gave them something to dance about and weep about when things got so poor and very hard on them. So it was really a great book.
Thank you. And Kia Zhang.
Well, writing contracts and reviewing contract is a daily process, in my career and my job. So towards the end of the day, I'm pretty mentally done. But I'm starting a new book called Origin by Dan Brown, and it's getting excited, but I haven't really gotten really far yet after page 10.
Thank you. Next question, we'll start with Bridget Erickson. What do you see as the most important challenging facing the district?
I think the opportunity gap is a huge challenge, and really a huge motivation for me in my career and as a parent. And I think, as Thomas spoke about earlier, the segregation in the district, I think that's a huge challenge. And I think as we go through the pandemic, and how do we come together as a community to work through our challenges and get solutions that are sustainable, systemic, and last beyond the leaders that are at the district, beyond the leaders that are at the board, and we'll be here for all kids for a long time.
Thank you. Vicki Richardson.
It would be my hope that our educators and our board and our whole world wouldn't forget that we have children that are still children and that this is a pandemic, but we have to somehow help them be joyful about life. And yes, learn, but also embrace learning because they're happy. So I'm really hoping that even though things are hard, we can find cutting-edge ways to bring joy into kindergartners, middle school students, and senior high students, and just make their lives a little happier while they're in class. Thank you.
Thank you. Kia Zhang.
One thing that I noticed through this whole pandemic learning and distance learning, and through the struggle that we all face as parents, as educators, and as board members this past year when they were trying to plan back to school, is that they all worked together as a team to make sure that the students get what they needed. I really appreciate the teachers, when we ask them, like, what can we do to help you and support you in doing your job. So hearing that from parents, it means a great deal to the teacher. And sometimes it's good to really, ask a teacher, hey, what can I do for you and how can I help you? Those kind of questions really does make their day. And I think it's good to really be mindful and be aware of the situation that we're in.
Thank you. And Thomas Brooks.
So I would say, of course, the achievement gap, but also I would say capacity issues. So after this pandemic, we are going to have to reevaluate capacity issues across the district. We know that there's been significant dropout, not just with DLA, but also at home, private and charter. So reevaluating schools that may be underrepresented on the east and some that may be over capacity in the west. So that'll be a challenge coming up.
Thank you. And now we're going to go on to our last and closing question. In summary, how do you intend to best serve the school district and move it forward? And we'll start with Vicki Richardson.
I intend to support and move forward on the school board by learning what the students' needs are, what the teachers' needs are, what is the cry, the heart cry of the people that work in our district and love working in our district but are getting a little overwhelmed. I think we're going to need to take time, and time is always short. You have class time and that's it, and you go home. But somehow we're going to have to initiate, set aside time to build relationships and to build time to get to know what is the issues that you're trying to deal with that perhaps are keeping you from being able to teach as well as you want, which I find hard because all our teachers really teach well. But for the students, what are their issues? What might be seemingly a disability for them? So time is a big, big thing, and we really have to make use of it.
Thank you. Kia Zhang.
I decided to run for school board because I think that there's still an achievement gap for students of color and special needs, fear of going back to school under the COVID-19, the opportunity of equity within our school system, lack of funding for programs to support students in low-income families. And as a board member, I will work with parents and teachers, listen to their concerns, identify the problems our teachers and students are facing, and establish a solution for what we currently have at the moment.
Thank you. Thomas Brooks.
As I've had conversations with families and educators across the district, I've consistently gathered that many do not feel heard. I am honored to be the only candidate here this evening supported by Education Minnesota Osseo. And I am committed to making sure that our educators and support professionals feel heard. I am committed to making sure that all of our stakeholders, including parents and community members, as well as our kids, are also heard. I commit to leading with respect and open dialogue with school board members, regardless of where they fall on the spectrum of educational policy. I commit to support our superintendent and district staff in the extremely difficult task we have given them to see all of our kids succeed. I plan to engage our underrepresented communities and ensure they have a louder voice in the boardroom. The job to best serve our school district will require all of our stakeholders to stay engaged and to remain passionate about our kids and working together to best solve the challenges our students face. I look forward to the opportunity of serving the district, and I ask for your vote. Thank you.
Thank you. And Bridget Erickson.
I entered this race very thoughtfully and in response to requests to run by others. I'm not political. It's not a stepping stone for me to future political positions. I have no group or political endorsements other than from colleagues and community members who know me and my work well. I simply am here offering to serve the children of our school district, and I want our district to move forward from politics and focus on our district mission. I want a strong union, administrative, and board relationship in which our teachers and staff feel seen, valued, heard, and uplifted. I want to disrupt and overcome the systemically racist practices found in our schools and buildings so every child sees themselves empowered in their learning. I want our schools to be integrated and connected. I want our opportunity gap to narrow and close so academic excellence is accessible for every child. I want 279 to rise from good to great to excellent, and I feel as if my experience, my guiding questions, my passion, and my willingness to learn from families can help guide us there.
Thank you. That concludes our questions for tonight. Once again, on behalf of the League of Women Voters and the Twin West Chamber of Commerce, I would like to thank the candidates for agreeing to participate in tonight's forum. I would also like to thank the voters for viewing and participating by submitting excellent questions. Also, I would really like to thank our friends at CCX Media for their continued support of the League of Women Voters and our shared mission to provide nonpartisan forums for voters to get to know the people who wish to represent them. Remember that if we could not get to your question tonight, or if you have any further questions for the candidates, we invite you to contact them directly with your concerns. Information about your candidates may also be found on vote411.org. Please remember to get out and vote on or before November 3rd, as your vote truly counts. Thank you, have a great evening, and be safe.